Hello and welcome. I'm Maria Ressa. This is Rappler Talk. After the bloody carnage in Mamasapano, Maguindanao, that special operations killed 44 police, 18 rebels, and 5 civilians. What lessons did we learn from that? In the Philippines' fight against terrorism, what are the realistic prospects for peace? Joining us to answer these questions today is Armed Forces Chief General Gregorio Pio Katapang, who'll talk about the lessons that military learned, among other issues it faces at the moment. General Katapang, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So it has been an overheated environment, both politically and in the security. What's the impact on this?
Apparently, in the Christian world, we're just about to celebrate the 40th day of the death of these fallen heroes, and unfortunately we still can't move on, because there's a lot of things that have come about on what really happened in the Mamasapano unfortunate incident. And even the Senate, Congress, the DOJ, and the Ombudsman are all investigating these things, because it involves a lot of strategic, operational, and tactical maybe lapses, or maybe areas that they say there were failures. But that's why a lot of people, and of course the video that showed to the entire world the brutality and the difficulty of war being shown to the whole world. So I was thinking that if indeed you have now this video, it goes back during the world wars, wherein you had to create the International Red Cross, the other Geneva Convention, so that if there will be wars, it will not be that brutal and barbaric.
But right before this, several months before, I seem to remember a video of this one was, I think, the 6th ID shooting an unarmed MILF member. Right, so both, if you go on the ground, they will say these types of killings happen on both sides. Did this incident whip up anti-Muslim sentiment? I mean, what impact do you see it having?
These things have been happening for the longest time, even during the 70s. Now it's brought to the houses in front of your living room. So people have difficulties understanding this kind of war, but unfortunately, it's not only the soldiers who now know about this. It has become very, very public, global. So I think we are in a situation that our people must understand the brutalities of war, and maybe from this start, now that we have seen it, we really have to make sure that everybody, all combatants, have to respect international humanitarian law, the rule of law, and the respect for human rights, even if the war is happening in front of them.
What would you want to see happen next?
Well, I think the best thing to see is that we have to move on. Number one, we have to give due honor for the fallen SAF 44. If need be, in our case, in the military, we would maybe even recommend the highest award, the Medal of Valor. Maybe the PNP has a counterpart award. So that once and for all, we will have to recognize whether there was tactical, operational lapses on the ground. These fallen SAF heroes indeed contributed their lives in order to address terrorism.
Yes.
It all boils down to terrorism. And these soldiers or these SAF commandos gave up their lives just to get the terrorists in that area.
You've been part of many special forces operations. You're familiar with it, and what we are seeing in the public is really only the tip of the iceberg, right? What people are debating, even the details of this operation that's come out in the Senate hearing, we're not seeing a big chunk of it. And when you look at the way this one was planned, how does it rate compared to other special forces operations?
Well, I really don't know or do not want to deal on the tactical side, but you really have to make sure that you, as the saying goes, you have to plan well, because if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So at that level, you will see that there was a failure in planning, and then of course after that, the execution, there was also a failure on the execution. So I hope the BOI, the report, will come out very truthfully, that the lapses that they can see, and hopefully this will be corrected and it will not happen again.
We've seen the Senate hearings and all of the conversations around this seems to have doomed the passage of the Bangsamoro Law. What do you see happening with this? What does this mean for the peace process?
Well, I'm not still that pessimistic. I think it will still
You
be
think
passed,
it will pass?
but there will be a delay, because the BBL, the bill, will be extremely scrutinized, and they would want to be assured that when we really normalize the relationship with the MILF and allow them to join the mainstream, they have really given up in their hearts and in their mind their rebelliousness and their willingness to be part of the system, a governance system where there are rules and laws that have to be followed.
If the Bangsamoro Law doesn't pass, what will happen?
Well, we just have to ask the extension of the ceasefire agreement, and then pass another law, or revise the law, or improve on the law. We cannot go on saying that this will not pass, or we will not pass it. We have to pass it, no matter how difficult the system or the way it will have to go through Congress and the Senate.
Many of the people online are calling for war. What do you have to say to them?
Well, it's easy to call for war. I hope that they'll be the first one to be willing to be called to active duty and sent in the front lines. If they want war, they should be the first one to volunteer to be on the front lines, and maybe they'll know what kind of war they're talking about.
Can you put this in the context of the international, the global terrorist threat, right? What is that global terrorist threat that you're looking at now, where this is the backdrop for it, and what could be the worst case scenario?
Yeah, I came in as the Chief of Staff saying that, the wars of the 21st century will all be global. It will be global terrorism, global climate change, global maritime concern, and global transnational crime.
Right.
Right now, we're facing all of these challenges. And global terrorism, who is Marwan? Is a foreigner, came into our country, a different ideology, and his ideology is of making terrorism, making bombs. So we have to address these areas. That's why the armed forces, or to include all the armed services, or to include the entire government, have to go into an interagency collaboration, not only cooperation, to ensure the safety and security of our country.
How would you describe the evolution of this threat? Because one of the things we heard at the Senate was the MILFs' ties to terrorism. And, you know, again, in the research that I've done, that was there leading up until 2005. And then supposedly in 2005, the MILF kicked out Abu Sayyaf, Jemaah Islamiyah. And of course, what we've seen is JI itself, Jemaah Islamiyah itself, has splintered and has even changed its name in Indonesia, right? So how would you describe that global threat in the Philippines today?
Well, unfortunately, these groups always have a breakaway. That's why, very simply, you just have to call them as terrorists, and then they have to be declared as a local terrorist movement, and then elevate them into being an international terrorist movement, so that the whole world will have to fight this terrorism anywhere they are.
Early on, in 2002, the U.S. came in with counterterrorism operations, and that's when the OEFP, Operation Enduring Freedom Philippines, which became just SODFP, came into the Philippines. What impact has that had, and how has it evolved?
Oh, well, we became part, because of the 9/11.
Yeah.
We became part of that anti-terrorist global movement, in order that it will not also spread. Unfortunately, we saw that because our country is so porous, we don't have the equipment to monitor our sea, our air. So we became part of this, and it has helped us a lot. It has developed our tactics, techniques, and procedure. And now that they are being recalled, because they too have their own they are now again very much concerned in the Middle East.
Yeah.
We have learned a lot from them, and they have transferred their experiences, and I think we can, if and when they really, now that they're leaving us, I think we can on our own be independent on fighting terrorism.
General Katapang, just SODFP may be leaving the southern Philippines, but the U.S. is actually has, under EDCA, has greater powers, looking like they're moving towards maritime, towards China. Is that correct? I mean, how do you see this relationship evolving?
Yeah, because of their new strategy of the
Asian
pivot.
pivot.
They want more to concentrate on the West Philippine Sea, in as much as China has claimed the entire area. So I think that is a bigger concern for them, and they know that we can handle terrorism, but as far as in terms of the maritime or the global maritime concern, we are really just beginning to address these issues.
General Katapang, in the southern Philippines, in these areas, many analysts have pointed out over the years that it can't just be a military or a law enforcement solution to get rid of terrorism, that in the end it comes down to good governance. Do you agree with that? Do you see it happening?
Yeah, we have seen that happen. You know, previously we have a communist movement, a terrorist movement in Central Luzon, the birthplace and the hotbed. Now, if you go to Central Luzon, formerly is now a haven of tourism and investment. So I believe we can turn this around. We can turn this around, but we really have to put some resources. Now you can see that in Mindanao, there's a lot of development coming in, and we're winning on the CNN in Eastern Mindanao.
Please clarify the CNN. It's not the cable news network, but the
communists, CPP, NPA, and DF.
Correct.
So
Right.
we're winning over them.
Yeah.
Lately, we just captured all their highest leadership, and they're even asking for also for peace talks. So I think that's a sign. Lately, going back to the BIFF, they're suing for peace also. But as I stated earlier, we should not only win the peace. We have to win progress and then ultimately prosperity. So prosperity for all, or what the president calls inclusive growth. So like here in Metro Manila, we have peace, we have progress, and then we have prosperity for all. There's a lot of job available. That's why there's so many migrants coming here. But in Mindanao, we can do that. It is just a matter of time and a political will. And then what we now want to happen in Mamasapano is to turn around that situation by putting in more resources on the ground. That's why what we now call is roads for peace, bridges for peace, schools for peace, hospitals for peace. With the issue on the PDAP, we saw an opportunity there. Now we are the ones going in the barrios, asking the people to identify the projects that they need through the barangay council, municipal council, and then they pass a resolution. And then that resolution we elevate to the province. Then the province say that they can support this. If this cannot be supported, we ask the national government to support this. So we are able to, I think in due time, we will be able to address all these social, economic, and cultural problems that our country have. Because, what EDSA 1 did for us, we just gained back our civil and political rights. What we need to do is to move on, move forward, have our social, economic, and cultural rights given to the people. So that is how I think should be how we will move on, given that this Mamasapano incident.
Is it fair to say that terrorism in Jolo, in Basilan, in central Mindanao, in these areas, that it is driven by poverty and lack of jobs, right?
Yes, of course.
Because unlike Indonesia, say, where it is ideologically driven, here do you see that kind of is development the cure for it? And if so, how do we get there?
Well, just like in Jolo, it has come to a point that the people don't want violence anymore, whether it's terrorism or political violence. What they want is for their children also to be able to study and to have a better life. That's why in Jolo, our operations is not hampered because the ASG, they have been pushed in the boondocks and in the jungle areas. That's why when we hit them, there are no collateral damages or civilians that we call the internally displaced people. In Mamasapano, the situation is quite difficult because their relatives, their friends are part of the MILF and the part of the BIFF. So there's a new strategy that we have to look into and to address the situation in Mamasapano.
Isn't that part of your strategy in the past anyway, to separate the terrorists from the community?
Yes.
And then the debate with Marwan is that he was sheltered by the MILF, but isn't Marwan also a special case because he was so embedded in the communities? Is that correct? Could you tell us a little bit more about why how he evaded arrest for so long?
Yeah, because he came in as a friend of the BIFF and the MILF. And he was able to teach them a cottage industry is by making bombs. And now the bombs are being sold If you have an enemy, you just buy a bomb buy a bomb from them, and then you have it detonated in front of the house of a foe. So these are the things that we have to look into, and we have to say to them that we will not allow this. That's why we have to come in. So, but unfortunately, there's some cost. We would like to ask the forgiveness of the people who are now in the evacuation centers. We have to do this just to make sure that what enemy are we after, because after coming in, we now saw it has become a terrorist haven in that area, and also an IED factory. So we will not allow that. We will have to, in fact, we are asking another 3 days to move around, and then, but I'll not pull out the troops.
So what are your plans now? So you're asking for another 3 days. What do you want to do, and what do you?
I'll stay there for a longer time, but I'll not anymore operate, and we have now our IPSP campaign.
IPSP is the internal.
Internal peace and security plan, wherein we go in the barrios. I help the people identify the projects,
right,
and then pass resolutions up to from the barangay, municipal, provincial, and then we ask funding for it. And now the government, whether you're pro or against the administration, they have allotted 5 to 10 million each for each municipalities, and I think that fund can be made available. And what we'll do is come in, stay with the people, I help them identify the projects that they need.
So what many may not know is that the IPSP was actually looked at as a model for the region as a whole of nation approach to countering terrorism.
Yes.
Is it working?
Yeah, I think so, because right now a lot of petitions asking us to get away from the communities are coming in, and sometimes our soldiers are killed when they go to the market, so without arms. So I think our campaign plan is very effective, because of the 81 provinces, we are able to declare about 80% of our country, declaring it peaceful and ready for further development. We're not saying that there are no more terrorists or NPA remnants. What we're saying is the people have claimed the peace in their areas, respective areas, and we have to respect that. So if the terrorists are still there, the people just text us that there are terrorists here, would you please help us, tell them to get away.
Why didn't you do this sooner, when Marwan was still there?
Oh, Marwan? That place was really a forbidden area.
Is it in the box? It wasn't in the box,
It's very near the box, the SPMS box.
So that,
and sometimes it goes out of the box.
Yeah. So that was not something that you were ready to do earlier.
Yeah, because it really needs a lot of troops on the ground. That's why we have about more than 4 brigades now operating in that area.
Let's talk about the U.S. role. I mean, some of the media reports, some of what the senators were saying about it is that the U.S. can control the Filipino troops and the police. Is that possible?
I don't think so. That will never happen. Maybe that, I don't know really the operations of the PNP. It's better to ask them. But in our case, they just provide us training, and they are also available when there's our casualties.
Yeah, the medevac.
The medevac. Yeah, and also they teach us on night flying, so that that's the capability that we need to develop, night fighting capability, because that can be the best advantage that we can have.
Could you tell us what roles the FBI and the CIA and just sort of P are playing in the Philippines right now?
FBI, I don't know, because they are more on, I think, the transnational transnational crimes, arms smuggling,
Yeah.
drug trafficking. Just like the case where you have a news about, it's now a combination of two threats, no? A smuggling occurred somewhere in Holo.
Yeah.
The Vietnamese came in, they don't want to pay the tax, and then there was a plan after the Vietnamese delivered the contraband. The Vietnamese will be kidnapped by the ASG. So you see the interplay of these global threats to national security.
Yeah.
They all come in. They all come in.
So what
together.
about the CIA? And we know what Jusod FP, actually the most documented is really the role of the military, the US military,
Yeah.
to train, advise, and assist.
Yes.
But the FBI and the CIA are both here. You talked about the FBI in terms of, I think, more
Yeah.
law enforcement. But
Yeah.
the CIA, what is it doing?
I haven't met any CIA operative here, so I'm really not on the know with what's happening.
One of the other things that the U.S. did bring to the Philippine military is the PGMs, precision-guided munitions, smart bombs.
Yes.
The first smart bomb was used to attack Marwan in February of 2012. There are 22 of these that were given to the military. What happened to them, and what do you plan to do with them?
These smart bombs they are not in our possession because we don't have an inventory of this, so we really do not talk about it in public. So because these are classified capabilities that we don't intend the public to know.
Sorry. But I guess part of it is everybody now knows that there was supposed to be a PGM attack. I think this came out in the Senate hearing
Yes.
also, right? Are you uncomfortable that these types of things are now public? Things that were special operations, information for special ops.
Yeah, these are the things that are confidential, and these are capabilities that we do not want our enemies to know.
So let me ask you, in terms of where we are today and the impact on the AFP. You talked about how the Americans are going to be pulling out. The modernization plan for the AFP, the reforms in the AFP,
Yes,
how would you
yes.
describe the
Yes.
AFP today?
You know, the modernization and the peace are equally supporting. That's why we want to claim the peace, and then after winning the peace, we want prosperity to come in, just like what happened in Central Luzon and Northern Luzon, and then ultimately progress and then prosperity. That's the only way we can fund our modernization.
Yes.
That's why if there are terrorists, we will hunt them down, because that's the only way we can declare an area peaceful. So it goes hand in hand. Because, you know,
Yeah.
if our country becomes prosperous, right now our country proposes 2.606 trillion national budget.
Yeah, yeah,
And it goes higher every year.
yeah.
You just imagine if only 1% of that is given to us, that's about 26 billion. And then next year, about 27 billion. That can easily fund our modernization.
Yeah.
So they are mutually supporting each other. If we don't win the peace, we don't win the progress, and then we don't win prosperity, our modernization program is dead. So we really have to push hard on winning the peace on all the areas, because right now, you know, Luzon is contributing a lot to the gross national product, Visayas. Luzon, the problem now is only Bicol and maybe Quezon, a smaller part of it. And then in Visayas, only Romblon and Negros and Samar. In Mindanao, of course, Davao, Surigao. But all of these are coming into play. Our time frame to declare the entire country peaceful and ready for further development is on time.
Which is when?
2016, before
That's
the
end
president.
goal of it.
Yeah.
That's assuming you have a Bangsamoro Law.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Let me ask you, some analysts have stated that the Philippine military and police cannot win a war and cannot keep the peace without the MILF. Is this a fair statement? Do you agree with that?
Well, you know, it's not a fair statement because we can win the peace, we can win progress and prosperity, but we don't want to go to repeat history. Going back to war with the MILF is quite absurd. It's illogical.
Yeah.
It's unlawful, maybe, because here are the people asking that they want peace, and then all of a sudden you tell them, no, let's just go to war to finish all these things. It's maybe it's unconstitutional. we can say that we don't want to give the peace that these people are asking from us.
So, General Katapang, how do you feel? Like, you sat in at the Senate hearings, lawmakers called for it. Many Filipinos are actually seem to be more prone to go to war now. How did all of this process make you feel?
Well, I think there's a lot of emotion up to now that's coming in, but I think we have to settle the issues first. Number one is we have to give honor to the fallen 44. Maybe declare them as national heroes, as a Medal of Valor awardees. And then maybe on the tactical or operational lapses, we have to make those people who are responsible for this failure really accountable. And then for the people there in Mamasapano who were equally affected, bring in development, help them understand why are they in that situation, simply because they don't have roads for peace, bridges for peace, hospitals for peace.
What about the local governments who themselves have their own private armed groups? And
well, we'll deal with them because that's part of the normalization process, that after the MILF have given up their arms, or hand in hand with the MILF disarming, should also be the disarming of the PAGs, or the private armed groups. So we will be moving towards that direction.
the last estimate I saw of private armed groups are almost 1,400.
Yes, of course. What we want to happen now is after we have settled with the MILF, is let's say in one barrio there's about 5 or 6 guys who are keeping arms. We'll ask the police to, although the judge or whatever, to issue the search warrant, and we will in the morning a battalion size of police and soldiers all around the barangays searching in their houses.
Yeah.
So we just have to show them that the government is willing to, or have the capacity and capability to run after these private armed groups.
Fantastic. Let me throw a question to you from Twitter, from @TitaLove13. How do you know if you're dealing with, who you're dealing with is from the MILF, the BIFF, the Abu Sayyaf? Can you give us differences?
Well, the Abu Sayyaf is based in Jolo. The BIFF and the MILF, we asked them to separate ties. That's why right now the MILF is staying in a safe place while we are running after the BIFF. Of course, the BIFF was a breakaway group of the MILF, and they don't want peace or the peace talks to prosper. So it's very easy to identify them.
What about links to ISIS, this global network?
Yes, they are going online telling themselves that they want to be identified with the ISIS, and having done that, I saw to it that I have to run after them. That's why we really have to run after them, because if they succeed, maybe they can attract the young generation to join them.
Governments around the world are worried about their homegrown fighters going to Syria to fight with ISIS. Do you have evidence of Filipinos going to Syria and Iraq to fight with ISIS?
Well, we don't have any information yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Yes.
In terms of One of the things I remember most about you when you were younger, when we were both much younger, was when you were in Pinatubo. Really,
Yes.
disaster risk reduction, how you
Yes.
deal with all of the crisis that happens. I mean, how do you see this evolving now for the AFP? You talked about disaster risk reduction, climate change. Please tell us what that means for you.
Yeah, this is a new war that really will devastate us very, very much. You have seen the Yolanda, we were quote unquote unprepared. The people insist, even if there will be a typhoon that passes through, they insist that they'll go back after the typhoon, and then they'll build again their house, and then their house will be destroyed again. So it becomes a never-ending story of destruction and relief, rehabilitation, and response. So we really have to deal on this. What we need now is a climate change summit, so that in every provinces, so I think they're doing that.
Yeah.
How to be resilient,
Yeah.
how to adapt. You know, these are the things that we cannot control. The global warming continues to be a threat to our national security.
Before you, Manny Bautista said that this was his main priority as AFP chief. I mean, how important is this dealing with climate change and disasters for the military under you, and what does that mean when it comes to deployment?
Oh, climate change is we need a capability to address climate change, because the more people will die, innocent civilians will die. Just not like the wars that we're fighting. We just tell them, you go to the evacuation center, we'll do the fighting here. But this kind of enemy, they will hunt down the civilians.
Yeah.
Those who insist on staying on the near the sea, those who insist on killing the forest, those who insist on factories, that it's a global thing. We can put a stop on the factories of China, US, because they'll have to lay off people.
Yeah.
So we also have to learn how to on our own indigenous way of adapting to climate change.
If you were to prepare, which I think you are preparing for a disaster, what is the worst disaster that you are preparing for now as the head of the armed forces?
The greatest challenge now is hopefully it will not happen. Is they're saying that an earthquake here in Metro Manila is due.
Yeah, the West Valley Fault.
Yeah, that's why we have prepared for that. Two unified command, maybe about 4 divisions, will have to come in Metro Manila and control the situation and help the local officials manage this disaster.
The estimates of the potential death toll counts of something like this is about 32 to 37,000 people.
Yeah, that's why when the pillbox announced, or what they call that office, initially there will be 30,000 deaths.
Yeah.
I immediately went to MMDA chair Tolentino and asked him, where will I bury the 30,000 dead? Do you have a mass grave here?
Yeah.
So he was shocked. So to him, he didn't have a plan where to put the cadavers or the dead. So these are things that really we have to prepare for. And of course, let's say we will be hit by a Yolanda storm in Metro Manila. How do we prepare? The population centers, how do we prepare?
Yeah. And even after that, after the shaking and the buildings falling down, it would be the fires that would happen, right? Well, we're working very closly to try to help in this, to try to
we have to help each other, because what I'm also planning is, if you are not affected by the earthquake, it's better to have an exodus outside Metro Manila. We are even preparing Clark, as far as Clark
As far
and
as Clark.
Tarlac, and maybe as far as Lipa City, where we can
Where are the
accommodate.
safest parts?
Here, the safest parts are in the golf courses, open spaces.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. General Katapang, your last thoughts. It's a pivotal moment because it's near the end of this administration. We're in the last 2 minutes of the Aquino administration.
Yes.
Your last thoughts for the armed forces and for our country right now.
Well, you know, I have to, I'll be retiring early than the president. I'll be going out in July, so I really, I am in a hurry to put these things in place, so the people who take over know how we will be dealing with these problems that our country are facing. These are more serious problems. It doesn't mean that if our country becomes prosperous, everything will be just like a paradise or a place of honey and happiness. So together with progress or prosperity are new challenges that will come in, and the challenges now will be global terrorism, global climate change, global transnational crimes, and global maritime concerns. And
Are we prepared? Are we
have to
prepared?
we have to prepare for it. Fortunately for the armed forces, we have to thank the president, the commander-in-chief, for allowing us to spend some amounts over and above that is authorized, or the minimum amount. We talk about 75 billion worth of projects or modernization projects. He authorized us at 90 billion, so it will really help a lot. And we thank our commander-in-chief and the president for helping us. Is the only, you combine all the modernization projects of the past three or four president, and he has given us more
Than the last 3 or 4 presidents.
more than the last 3 presidents we have had.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've been talking to Military Chief General Gregorio Katapang about the lessons learned in the fight against terrorism and in winning the peace. I'm Maria Ressa. Thank you for watching Rappler Talk. Please, he is on Twitter at Gen Greg Katapang. Correct? Stay tuned. We'll be back with more. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.